The man rushed into the construction site in a panic, shouting that they couldn't dig anymore. The consultant has a special killing force, so that people can ignore his words. And thought he was messing around. After the man left, the project continued. Datu and his fellow workers took the initiative to stay and work overtime in order to earn more overtime pay. It was getting darker and darker, and the light in the tunnel was getting worse and worse. A few workers entered the tunnel first, but they didn't come out for a long time. Datu began to wonder, and picked up a flashlight to go in and take a look. Datu walked into the tunnel carefully. It was eerily quiet inside. Only the sound of his footsteps echoed in the tunnel. As he was walking, he suddenly heard a rustling sound from above his head. He looked up subconsciously and saw that his coworker was being entangled by a green-faced and fanged evil ghost. People were sucked in. At the top of the tunnel, the workers' lips turned blue and their skin began to fester. Before long, the news reached the ears of capitalist Cupid. Cupid was planning to build a resort nearby. This tunnel was a key project, and he was worried that the news would affect the progress of the project, so he spent a lot of money to bribe the relevant personnel and strictly block the news. Yen Shusher told the public that the workers died in an accident. Let's stop wandering around. On this day, Xiaomei took her sister to a resort. The train was about to leave. Suddenly a group of women rushed over, holding signs and protesting loudly. It turned out that they were the relatives of the workers who died mysteriously. They demanded to have their husband's body back for a proper burial, but the guards didn't care whether they lived or died. Xiaomei and Kenbang saw this scene and felt very upset, but they could do nothing about it. Afang is Datu's wife. She has been looking for Datu since he disappeared. Today she boarded this train, hoping to find some information about him at the resort. Clues to the husband. Afang sat in her seat. Her eyes kept scanning the surroundings, and suddenly she seemed to see Datu. She searched from one carriage to another along the aisle, but she couldn't find Datu after searching for a long time. She grabbed the flight attendant and asked, "Have you seen a man in work clothes?" "That's me. My husband, I have been looking for him for a long time." The steward shook his head. Afang returned to her seat in frustration, thinking that she might be hallucinating. Suddenly a crow flew towards the train. And then disappeared without a trace. Kenbang was startled, and a sense of foreboding welled up in his heart. Xiaomei wants to go to the toilet. So he gave the diary to Kenbang for safekeeping. There was a queue in front of the toilet in their carriage, so Xiaomei went to the next carriage. In the toilet, Xiaomei couldn't help vomiting because of her illness. She lowered her head. She did not notice that a rotting corpse was slowly emerging in the mirror. The corpse was emitting a foul odor. His eyes were fixed on Xiaomei. When the train entered the first tunnel, the conductor suddenly noticed that the door of the first carriage kept opening and closing. He thought the door was broken, so he asked the staff to go. After checking Kenbang, I found that Xiaomei had been gone for a long time and had not returned. I wanted to call her, but the other end of the phone kept saying that it was out of service area. Kenbang immediately realized something was wrong and prepared to go find Xiaomei. When passing the junction of carriages, the lights suddenly became dim and bright. Suddenly, a little girl appeared in front of the car window and kept knocking on the glass. A child sitting next to her was attracted and was about to say hello to the little girl. The next second, the girl's face becoming twisted and hideous. Black liquid came out of his eyes. The child fell to the ground in fear. At this time, Kenbang found Xiaomei in another carriage. Xiaomei was about to speak, but when she looked up she was horrified to find that the fifth train car was gone. Xiaomei quickly pulled Kenbang aside and said that the fifth carriage was gone, which was very strange. Xiaomei found the flight attendant and Dikun told him what happened. After hearing this, Dikun's face turned grim. He knew that if this matter were to be spread out, it would definitely cause panic, so he immediately blocked the toilet in the fourth carriage. But truth cannot be hidden. Some passengers discovered that the fifth carriage had disappeared. The passengers were asking what was going on. Dikun pretended to be calm and urged everyone not to panic. The fifth carriage had only a temporary breakdown and was left in the tunnel. The staff are trying to find a way to get the passengers safely to the resort. The passengers are skeptical, but there is no other way. He could only believe that Xiao Maikenbang and Nafang, who were originally in the fifth carriage, had to stay in the dining car. After a while, Kenbang received a call from the attending physician, who told him that Xiaomei's condition was very serious. The cancer cells had spread throughout her body. If she was not treated in time, he may not live much longer. Kenbang told him what happened. Xiaomei was silent for a while and said that she just wanted to see the outside world with her in the last days. The two sisters hugged each other and cried. At this time, Dikun discovered that there was something wrong with the train's electric furnace. The control switch was covered with moss and there was some sticky liquid. Dikun touched it curiously, and suddenly the figures of several evil spirits were reflected on the window, and Dikun was so scared that he almost screamed. The conductor came over and urged Dikun to repair the radio line. Dikun hesitated for a moment, but still told the conductor about the derailment of the fifth car. The conductor's face changed drastically when he heard this. If the developer knew about this, he would definitely be furious. He asked Dikun to calm the passengers first and find a way to solve the problem himself. Dikun comes to the dining car. Said the fifth carriage had been removed for temporary maintenance. When you arrive at the resort, they will. Everyone suddenly realized that the next tunnel might be their burial place. The train was just entering the tunnel, but everyone's heart was in their throat. Someone suggested going to carriage 1, as they thought it might be safer there, but the conductor disagreed. He pointed at the Little Macon gang and Nafang. They claimed that it was all their fault. They must have wanted to rob the people in business class and deliberately created this chaos. The developer Santoso followed suit. The other passengers lost their minds out of fear. They vented their anger on the three men. A man picked up a bottle and shouted, "You are the ones who are causing all this trouble." If something happens today, I am not done with you. Then he rushed towards Xiaomei and the others. Seeing that the train was about to enter the fourth tunnel, Fang shouted loudly that there was danger in the tunnel. Xiaomei also advised everyone not to kill each other first, to work together to find a way to survive, but the guards would not let them in. Dikan couldn't bear it any longer. Rushed over to persuade the man not to be impulsive, they were all in the same boat and should unite now, but the man didn't listen at all and directly pushed Dikan aside. Xiaomei saw the man rushing towards Kenbang again, and quickly picked up the broken wine bottle on the ground to block Kenbang. The man's eyes widened. Then he slowly fell down. Xiaomei's hands were shaking with fear. Afang said, "We don't. You can't wait to die here, just go to carriage number 1. So Xiaomei and the other two ran towards carriage number 1. When they arrived at the door of the carriage, they found that it was locked. At this time, the train passed through the fourth tunnel. The passengers in carriage 3 were massacred by evil spirits. The evil spirits were rampaging in the carriage, leaving corpses everywhere, and extras were torn to pieces, and the screams were horrifying. The survivors hiding in carriage number 1 turned pale with fear when they saw this scene. At this moment, one of the survivors accidentally made a sound, and an evil ghost pounced towards them. Dikan felt that he could no longer sit there and wait for death, and advised everyone not to go any further, and that they should stop the train now, and think of other ways to survive. The bearded man refused to agree to this. He thought he would die if he stopped, and he could only find help by going to the resort. Despite everyone's opposition, the bearded man asked the staff to speed up. Dikan chased after him and tried to stop the bearded man, but during the scuffle, he was accidentally thrown off the train. The conductor was startled and quickly pulled the handbrake. The train slowly stopped, but by then it had already stopped in front of the tunnel, only a few steps away from the tunnel entrance, and everyone fell into despair. The bearded man is still defending his actions. Afang took out her husband's photo and held it in front of the bearded man. "This is my husband. He disappeared because of your greed. You must give us an explanation." The bearded man looked at the photo, his expression turned very grim, he lowered his head and didn't dare to look anyone in the eye. At this time, Xiaomei said to everyone, "Although the tunnel is dangerous, we can try to go around it through the woods next to it, maybe we can find help." Some people think that Xiaomei said makes sense and is willing to go with him. But some people were afraid and wanted to stay on the train and not do anything. The film ends here. He desperately grabbed his neck with both hands, his body kept leaning back, the passengers around him were all terrified. But before anyone could react, more and more passengers showed the same symptoms, their eyes turned bloodshot, they made strange noises from their mouths. It's like being possessed by a ghost. A reporter wanted to take a picture of this scene. As soon as I raised my camera, I saw an evil ghost appear on the roof of the car. Ken bang, through the glass. Seeing that carriage number 4 was slowly leaving the train, he screamed in fear. Xiaomei quickly pulled Ken bang back, and the lights on the train came out of the tunnel. It lit up again. Dikan looked back and found that the train had derailed. The two developers and investors heard the noise and came over, their faces were very grim. Fang said the train was cursed and her husband had warned them not to work in the forest, but they didn't listen. Santoso was immediately unhappy. "Don't talk nonsense here. There is no such thing as a curse. It must be a mechanical failure." Santoso was worried that this matter would be reported. He pulled Dikan aside and said, "You should find a solution quickly. Can't solve this problem, and if something goes wrong, you will be in trouble." The bearded man ran to the VIP car and was relieved to see that the investor was fine. But he found moss on the back of a seat. He quickly blocked it with his body, then secretly wiped it off with a handkerchief. The bearded man found the conductor and asked him the reason for the derailment. The conductor showed him the surveillance video. The bearded man was frightened when he saw the horrific scenes. He asked the conductor to delete the video immediately, don't let other passengers see it. Otherwise it will cause panic. And as for Afang, find a way to make him shut up and stop disturbing other passengers. Santoso decided to put Xiaomei and Kenbang in business class. She thought it would appease them. When arranging Afang took out a photo of her husband and asked Santoso if he had seen her. Santoso said impatiently that he didn't know the business class and there was only one seat. Xiaomei gave her seat to Kenbang and called Dikan out on the pretext of going to the toilet. Xiaomei asked Dikan why he kept lying and what happened to the train. Dikan said that he had no choice but to obey the orders from above. At this moment, Xiaomei suddenly felt nauseous. She covered her mouth and ran to the toilet to vomit. She found that what she vomited was blood. It was obvious that her condition had worsened. The train entered the third tunnel, the conductor Su Ci suddenly pale. Yana came over quickly and asked what happened. Su Ci said that he felt something was there. Yana, who was pestering her, advised her not to think too much. Santoso saw this and was worried that it would affect other passengers, so he told her to go to work quickly, not to dawdle here, to leave Su Ci in the restroom, to let her take some time off. Yana had no choice but to leave, leaving Su Ci alone in the lounge. After a while, Su Ci's screams were heard from the lounge. Yana ran over when she heard the sound, opened the door and saw a mess inside and Su Ci was gone. At this time, Santoso also ran over. He followed Yana's gaze and found a person sitting in a corner not far away. The evil ghost Santo turned pale with fear. He signaled everyone to keep quiet and then slowly moved to the next carriage. Xiaomei came out of the toilet and saw through the glass that in carriage number 3 the evil spirit was crushing a man's head, the brain was splattered everywhere. Xiaomei, trembling with fear, she quickly hid in carriage number 2, at which time Yana was attacked from behind by an evil spirit. She banged on the glass door desperately, asking Dikan for help. Dikan saw the horrible appearance of the evil ghost and hesitated for a moment, but in the end he did not open the door. Everyone watched as carriage number 3 derailed again, and the passengers in the carriage screamed miserably.